Our daughter and her family recently spent a week with us. As they were packing to leave, I suddenly remembered the Chinese coin. I opened my top dresser drawer and found it immediately, still encased in the silver holder we had made to fit around it, so it could be strung from a chain and worn like a necklace. I put it in a small bag and brought it to our daughter. She thanked me, packed it safely away, and asked me to tell her the story again. 49 years ago, when Vietnam was just beginning to enter American lives, and all young men were drafted into military service, my husband Barry joined a special plan that would allow him to finish his residency in internal medicine before he went in the army. About 3 months before he had completed his residency, the army notified us that he would be serving at Camp Zama, an army hospital in Sagamihara, Japan. Although he was only required to serve 2 years, we had the option to add a 3rd year, which meant the army would be responsible for travel and housing expenses for our entire family. Since we were very poor and felt that living on base might be safer for our 2-year-old daughter, this seemed like a good idea. In addition, living in Japan for 3 years sounded like a grand adventure. And it was. We loved everything about Japan. The people, the countryside, the temples, the food, the opportunity to travel. That first year, Barry was busy at the hospital, caring for the servicemen and their families. I was busy, getting settled, caring for our daughter, and exploring Japanese culture. I was also expecting our 2nd child. Towards the end of our first year, Barry was asked to examine an unusual patient, a young Chinese man, whose father was a general and close in command to Chiang Kai-shek. The young man, who was having severe intestinal problems, was a student at a military school in Taiwan. The request came from the Chinese embassy in Tokyo, which was actually the Taiwan embassy, because at that time, neither Japan nor the United States recognized the leadership in China. After the man was treated and released, the military attack at the Taiwan embassy invited everyone at the hospital who was involved with his care to dinner at a Chinese restaurant next door to the embassy. Spouses were also invited. Barry looked at my swollen belly. I was 8 months pregnant. On the evening of the event, we gave ourselves 2 hours to drive to Tokyo, usually a trip that took a little over an hour. It was an uneven road, with lots of bumps, and Barry drove as if he had a load of crystal glasses. He slowed almost to a stop at each swell in the road, and kept throwing me anxious glances. I thought we'd never get there. Finally we reached the Sano Hotel, the military hotel, where we always parked our car. Then we took a taxi to the restaurant. We were led to a private dining room, and when we walked in the door, our friends from the hospital greeted us, but the people from the embassy stared, eyes lowered to my pregnant belly. The military attaché greeted us, and led us to the large round table, where the rest of our party was seated. On my right was the ambassador's wife, a beautiful gracious woman, who was dressed in a traditional Chinese outfit. She was just a little younger than my mother, and she quickly made it her business to take care of me. The wait staff entered and placed one dish after another on a smaller, rotating table in the middle. At first, we the Americans took small helpings of every dish, until we began to notice that our Chinese friends were using their chopsticks to take only one mouthful off of every plate. As the dishes continued coming for the next hour, we began to understand their strategy. A mouthful of each dish was more than enough. I was enjoying the food, but finding it very difficult to pick it up with my chopsticks and get it to my mouth without dropping it on my large stomach. And of course, about halfway through the meal, I failed. The food landed on the highest peak of my blouse. To my embarrassment, the ambassador's wife took me in the kitchen, where she worked on the spot with water and soap. Red-faced, I thanked her profusely and was very relieved to get back to the table. It was a delightful evening, and we ate the best Chinese food I've ever had. Before we left, the military attaché told us he would like to bring us a special gift for the baby when it arrived. Once we were back in our car, and on the way home, Barry drove faster than I had ever seen him drive before. Each bump was taken with ultimate force, and we were home in record time. In spite of this wild ride, the baby, our second girl, waited another month to enter the world. When our baby was around 6 weeks old, we invited the military attaché for dinner. He brought the gift for the new baby, a silver coin commemorating the Chinese New Year. We were delighted and took good care of that coin for many years, just waiting to give it to its rightful owner, our daughter, who was born in Japan and still loves Chinese food. Note: photos of the coin are on my website, stayinginginflorida.com.